Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Defiance, watching the enemy fleet grow larger on her screens. The Vorthic ships looked like giant metal insects, all sharp edges and glowing red lights. They had come in force this time. More ships than she had ever seen in one place. "Admiral, we count 300 enemy vessels," reported Lieutenant Jackson from his station. His voice was calm, but Ching could hear the worry underneath. 300 ships was a lot, even for the Galactic Defense Coalition. "Any word from the other coalition fleets?" Chan asked. "Still waiting for confirmation, ma'am. The Zephyrian Second Fleet should be here in 2 hours. The Krolek Defense Force is coming from the outer system." Chun nodded. The coalition had been fighting the Vorthic Empire for over 50 years now. 12 different species working together to stop the Vorthic from taking over the galaxy. Humanity had joined 30 years ago, and they had quickly proven themselves. In battle after battle, the humans were different from the other coalition species. Where others were careful and followed rules, humans were creative and willing to try new things. Where others retreated when things looked bad, humans found ways to keep fighting. It had made them valuable allies. "Ma'am, incoming transmission?" "From Coalition Command," called out Communications Officer Torres. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed the face of Chancellor Vex, a tall blue alien with 4 eyes. He was the current leader of the Coalition Council, representing the Altarian Republic. "Admiral Chun, we have reviewed the tactical situation at Nexus Prime. The Coalition Council has made a decision." Chun felt something cold in her stomach. There was something wrong with the Chancellor's voice. Too formal, too distant. "What are your orders, Chancellor?" "You are to maintain your position and hold the line while other coalition forces reposition for a strategic withdrawal." Chun blinked. "Sir, with respect, my fleet cannot hold against 300 Vorthic ships alone. We need the support fleets to arrive as planned." Chancellor Vex's 4 eyes looked away from the camera for a moment. "I am afraid that will not be possible, Admiral. The other fleets have been reassigned." "Reassigned?" Chun's voice rose. "Chancellor, there are 8 million civilians on Nexus Prime. If we fall back now, they will all die. The Coalition Council has weighed all options. Admiral Chun, your orders are to hold position for as long as possible to allow for the evacuation of essential personnel." The transmission cut off before Chun could respond. She stared at the blank screen, her mind racing. Something was very wrong. "Lieutenant Jackson, get me a direct line to Admiral Korth with the Zephyrian Second Fleet." "Trying." "Now, ma'am." Jackson worked at his controls for several minutes. "I cannot get through, Admiral. They are not responding to any frequency." "What about the Krolek Defense Force?" "Same thing, ma'am. No response." Chun turned to her tactical officer. "Commander Park, show me the positions of all coalition forces in the system." The main display changed to show a map of the Nexus Prime system. Chun could see her own fleet, 28 ships holding position near the planet. She could see the approaching Vorthic Armada. But where the other coalition fleets should have been, there was nothing. "Commander, expand the search to neighboring systems." The map grew larger. Chun watched as red dots appeared showing coalition ships. But they were not coming toward Nexus Prime. They were moving away from it. "Ma'am," Commander Park said quietly, "it looks like every coalition fleet in this sector is withdrawing." Chun felt the blood drain from her face. "All of them?" "Yes, ma'am. Even the Thane heavy cruiser squadron that was supposed to guard the jump points. They left their position an hour ago." The bridge was silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Chun looked around at her crew. These were good people. Human officers who had trained with coalition allies, fought beside them, bled with them. Many had alien friends serving on other ships. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres called out, "I am picking up some kind of transmission, not directed at us, but I can intercept it." "What language?" "Vorthic, ma'am." "But our computers have been translating their communications for years now." Chun nodded. During the Long War, both sides had learned each other's languages. "Put it through." The alien words came through the speakers, followed immediately by the computer's translation in flat, Mechanical English. Vorthic Fleet Commander. To Coalition Council. The terms of our agreement are acceptable. Human forces are isolated as promised. We will proceed with the final assault on their positions. Once the human threat is eliminated, our forces will withdraw from all coalition territories as agreed. Chen felt like she had been punched in the stomach. She heard gasps from around the bridge. The words echoed in her mind. Agreement, as promised, human threat. Keep monitoring, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. More transmissions followed. Each one made the picture clearer and more horrible. The Coalition Council had made a secret deal with the Vorthic Empire. In exchange for peace, they would abandon humanity to be destroyed. The other 11 species would be left alone if they allowed the Vorthok to wipe out every human in the galaxy. Ma'am, Commander Park said, I am detecting Coalition IFF signals. Around the edge of the system, it looks like they are. Observing, Chun closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her face was hard as stone. Show me. The display zoomed in on several ships holding position at the very edge of sensor range. They were coalition vessels from different species, watching, waiting to see humanity die. Admiral, Lieutenant Jackson said, the Vorthic fleet is moving into attack formation. Chun looked at the approaching enemy ships. 300 vessels against her 28. Under normal circumstances, the coalition would send everything they had to stop such a force. The battle plan had called for over 200 coalition ships to defend Nexus Prime. Instead, humanity stood alone. Ma'am, what are your orders? Asked Commander Park. Chun thought about the 8 million people on the planet below. Human colonists, but also aliens who had chosen to live in human space. Families, children, people who trusted the coalition to protect them. She thought about the 30 years of alliance, the battles they had fought together, the friends she had made among the other species. The trust that had been built and now shattered. She thought about Earth, about all the human colonies scattered across the galaxy. If the coalition had betrayed them here, what would happen to the rest of humanity? Admiral? Commander Park said again. Chun straightened her shoulders. Send a message to all human forces in the system. Tell them what we have learned. Tell them we stand alone. Yes, ma'am. And Commander Park, ma'am? Change our status from coalition defense to independent operations. Park understood immediately. Coalition rules of engagement were strict. Things like civilian shields, attacking supply lines, using certain weapons, all forbidden by treaties humanity had signed in good faith. But if the coalition had broken faith first, then humanity was no longer bound by those treaties. Aye, Admiral. Independent operations. Chun looked at the Vorthic fleet again. 300 ships. It was suicide to fight them. But running away meant leaving 8 million people to die. It meant accepting that humanity could be thrown away whenever it was convenient. All ships, prepare for battle. We hold the line. Ma'am. Lieutenant Torres said, incoming transmission from the planet. Governor Martinez wants to speak with you. Put him through. Governor Martinez appeared on screen. He was an older man with gray hair and worried eyes. Behind him, Chen could see the lights of New Geneva, the capital city of Nexus Prime. Admiral, we are tracking a large enemy force heading our way. Can you tell me the status of our defenses? Chen met his eyes. Governor, I need to be honest with you. The coalition has abandoned us. We are facing the enemy alone. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. How alone? 28 ships against 300. I see. Martinez nodded slowly. What do you recommend, Admiral? We can try to evacuate as many people as possible. Get them to the outer colonies, maybe to Earth. And if we stay and fight? Chun did not want to lie to him. We will probably all die, Governor. But we might buy enough time for more people to escape. Martinez looked over his shoulder at the city behind him. Admiral, there are children in the schools down here, families having dinner. People who went to sleep last night thinking they were safe. I know, sir. The coalition ships that are watching from the edge of the system, are they planning to help if things go badly? Chun's jaw tightened. No, sir. They are here to make sure we lose. Martinez was quiet again. When he spoke, his voice was different, harder. Then we fight, Admiral. We show them what it costs to betray humanity. Governor, you should understand. Admiral Chun, my daughter. Lives on Earth. My son commands a patrol ship near Alpha Centauri. If we run now, if we show that humans can be scared away from defending our own people, what happens to them next? Chun understood. This was not just about Nexus Prime anymore. This was about what humanity would be in the galaxy. Would they be a species that could be thrown away when convenient? Or would they be something that others feared to betray? All right, Governor, we fight. Good. I will coordinate the planetary defenses from here. Governor Martinez out. The transmission ended. Chun looked around her bridge again. Every face was focused and determined. These people understood what was happening. They knew they were probably going to die. But they also knew why they had to fight. Admiral, Commander Park reported. All ships report ready for battle. Lieutenant Jackson, open a channel to all human vessels. Channel open, ma'am. Chun thought about what to say. These were people who had served the Coalition faithfully for 30 years. People who had friends among the aliens who had just betrayed them. People who were about to die far from home. This is Admiral Chun to all human forces. You know the situation. We have been abandoned by those we called allies. We face an enemy that wants to wipe out our entire species. The odds are not good. She paused, looking at the tactical display. The Vorthic ships were getting closer. But we are not just fighting for Nexus Prime today. We are fighting for every human in the galaxy. We are fighting to show that humanity cannot be discarded when it becomes inconvenient. We are fighting to prove that betraying us comes with a price. Chun's voice grew stronger. So we will hold this line. We will make them pay for every meter of space. And when other humans learn what happened here, they will know that we did not go quietly into the dark. She looked at the approaching enemy fleet one more time. All ships, engage when ready. Make them remember this day. The battle for Nexus Prime was about to begin. Humanity stood alone, betrayed by their allies, facing impossible odds, but they would fight anyway, because that was what humans did. The battle for Nexus Prime lasted 18 hours. Admiral Chun watched from the bridge of the Defiance as her fleet fought with everything they had. The Vorthic came at them in waves, expecting an easy victory. They did not get one. Human ships moved differently than Coalition vessels. Where alien fleets followed careful formations and predictable tactics, human captains used whatever worked. Captain Rodriguez of the destroyer Vengeful rammed his ship into a Vorthic cruiser when his weapons failed. Commander Kim of the frigate Steadfast used her ship's mining lasers to cut through enemy armor in ways the Vorthic had never seen, but 18 ships could not hold against 300 forever. One by one, the human vessels fell. Chun watched good captains and crews die while Coalition ships sat at the edge of the system, observing like scientists watching lab animals. Admiral, Commander Park called out, the Intrepid is gone. Captain Williams managed to take 2 enemy ships with her. Chun nodded grimly. That left only 12 human ships still fighting. The planet below was being evacuated as fast as possible, but there were too many people and not enough transport ships. Ma'am, Governor Martinez is requesting permission to activate the Nexus Defense Grid. Chun almost smiled. The Nexus Defense Grid was a network of orbital weapons platforms around the planet. They were old and had not been used in 20 years. The Coalition had wanted them dismantled as too aggressive for civilized warfare. Tell the governor he has my permission to use whatever he thinks will work. Moments later, hidden weapons. Platforms all around Nexus Prime came online. Ancient particle beams and missile batteries opened fire on the Vorthic fleet. The enemy had not expected planetary defenses. Several of their ships were destroyed before they could react. Admiral, Lieutenant Torres reported, I am detecting emergency broadcasts from human colonies in 3 other systems. They are also under attack. Chun felt her heart sink. This was not just about Nexus Prime. The Vorthic were hitting human settlements everywhere, knowing that Coalition forces would not intervene. Any word from Earth or the core worlds? Earth Defense Command has issued a general recall order. All human military units are ordered to fall back to the Sol system. What? About civilian evacuations? Torres checked her instruments. Transport fleets are being organized, but... there are over 50 human colonies? We cannot evacuate them all. Chun closed her eyes. 50 worlds, hundreds of millions of people. All abandoned by the coalition. All marked for death by... the Vorthic. Admiral, Commander Park said urgently. Enemy breakthrough on our port flank. 3 cruisers are heading for the planet. All remaining ships intercept those cruisers. We cannot let them reach the surface. The next few hours were a nightmare. Human ships threw themselves at Vorthic vessels with desperate courage. The crew of the corvette Defiant Spirit detonated their reactor core right next to a Vorthic battleship, taking both vessels out. The heavy cruiser Washington held off an entire squadron until her hull was torn apart by enemy fire. Finally, Governor Martinez sent a message. Admiral Chun, we have evacuated all we can. 3 million people are on. Transport ships heading for the jump point. The rest... He did not finish the sentence. Chun understood. 5 million people were still on the planet. There was no more time. All ships, prepare to withdraw. We have done what we can here. Ma'am, Commander Park said quietly, the transport. Convoy needs an escort. The Vorthic will chase them. Chun looked at her remaining ships. 8 vessels, all damaged, facing an enemy fleet that still had over 200 ships left. If they stayed to escort the transports, none of them would make it out, but if they abandoned the transports, 3 million civilians would die. All ships form up around the convoy. We are getting these people out. The retreat from Nexus Prime became the stuff of legends among human military circles. 8 battered warships shepherding hundreds of civilian transports, fighting, running. Battles against overwhelming odds. The Vorthic pursued them relentlessly, knowing that letting even one transport escape would be seen as failure. Captain Sarah Kim of the frigate Steadfast was the first to try something new. Her ship was too damaged to keep up with the convoy, so she dropped back to face the pursuing Vorthic alone. But instead of fighting conventionally, she did something that made coalition officers watching from their distant ships gasp in shock. She used her ship as a guided missile. Kim programmed the Steadfast to fly directly at the lead Vorthic cruiser while she and her crew escaped in life pods. The frigate's AI took control and flew the ship into the enemy vessel at maximum speed. Both ships exploded in a brilliant flash. Did she just ... Commander Park stared at the tactical display. Yes, Chun said, and it worked. The Vorthic fleet hesitated. They had never seen anyone sacrifice an entire ship just to destroy one enemy vessel. In their culture, ships were too valuable to throw away like that. Captain Rodriguez of the destroyer, Vengeful, saw the enemy's confusion and acted on it. His ship was also too damaged to continue, so he followed Kim's example. The Vengeful accelerated toward 3 Vorthic frigates, its AI pilot taking over when Rodriguez and his crew reached the escape pods. 2 more enemy ships died. The Vorthic began to pull back slightly. They were winning, but the cost was higher than expected. These humans were fighting like cornered animals, willing to trade their lives for minor tactical gains. Admiral Chun realized something important was happening. The enemy was being careful now. They were thinking twice before pursuing too closely. Commander Park, send a message to all human forces. Tell them about the kamikaze tactic. If they cannot escape, they should consider using their ships as weapons. It was a horrible order to give. Chun was essentially telling her people to die. But it was better than letting the enemy destroy them for nothing. The message spread quickly. Through human communication channels, within hours, reports came in from other systems. Human captains who faced impossible odds were turning their ships into guided missiles. The Vorthic advance slowed as they began to fear getting too close to damaged human vessels. But the retreat continued. World after world fell to the Vorthic as human forces pulled back toward Earth. The lucky colonies were evacuated in time. The unlucky ones were bombed from orbit. Chun's convoy finally reached the jump point to human space after 6 days of running battles. Of the 8 ships that had started the escort mission, only 3 remained. But they had saved 3 million lives. As they jumped to safety, Chun received a transmission from Earth. Fleet Admiral Harrison, the highest-ranking human military officer, appeared on her screen. Admiral Chung, report? Sir, Nexus Prime has fallen. We evacuated what civilians we could, but the planet is lost. The Coalition has abandoned us completely. Harrison nodded grimly. We know. Similar reports are coming in from across human space? The President has declared a state of emergency. We are implementing the Prometheus Protocol. Chun had heard whispers about the Prometheus Protocol. It was a plan developed years ago for the worst possible scenario. She had hoped it would never be used. Double quote, sir, what are my orders? Get your people to Earth. We need every ship and every experienced officer. We are pulling back to the core worlds and preparing for a siege. What about the outer colonies? Harrison's face was stone. We will save who we can, Admiral, but we cannot save everyone. The Coalition made sure of that. After the transmission ended, Chun stood alone on her bridge. Around her, the crew worked quietly at their stations. They had just lost their home, watched friends die, and learned that their allies had betrayed them. But they were still functioning. Still fighting. Lieutenant Torres looked up from her station. Admiral, we are receiving distress calls from the Kepler system. The 4th Colonial Fleet is trapped there. Chun looked at the star charts. Kepler was far from Earth, deep in what had been Coalition space. Getting there would be dangerous. Getting back would be nearly impossible. How many ships does Admiral Park have in his fleet? 15 vessels, ma'am. Plus civilian transports with about 2 million colonists. Chun made her decision. Set course for Kepler. We are not leaving anyone behind. Ma'am, Commander Park protested, our orders are to return to Earth. Our orders are to save human lives, Chun replied. These people did that at Nexus Prime. We will do it at Kepler. The journey to Kepler took 4 days. When they arrived, they found Admiral Park's fleet surrounded by Vorthic ships. The human vessels were damaged and low on ammunition. The civilian transports were defenseless. But Jean had learned something during the retreat from Nexus Prime. She had learned that humans could be more dangerous when they stopped following the rules. All ships prepare for attack run. We are using the new tactics. Ma'am? Commander. Park looked confused. We are going to ram them, Chun said simply. The attack was unlike anything the Vorthic had seen. Instead of careful formations and measured exchanges of fire, the human ships charged straight at them. Some vessels fired everything they had and then turned themselves into missiles when their weapons ran out. Others used their mining equipment and construction tools as weapons. The corvette Brave attached itself to a Vorthic cruiser and began cutting through its hull with industrial lasers. The transport ship New Hope ejected its entire cargo of mining explosives toward an enemy formation, creating a minefield in space. Most shocking of all was what the merchant vessel Prosperity did. Captain Walsh, a civilian captain with no military training, saw a Vorthic battleship bearing down on the defenseless transports. She accelerated her cargo ship toward the enemy. Vessel, broadcasting on all frequencies, this is for my daughter on New Shanghai. The Prosperity hit the battleship's ammunition storage. Both ships disappeared in an explosion that could be seen from the other side of the system. The Vorthic fleet broke off the attack. They had won the tactical engagement, but the cost was too high. These humans were insane. They threw away valuable ships like they were rocks. Admiral Park's fleet escaped with chained ships. Together they began the long journey back to Earth, but something had changed during the battle at Kepler. Admiral, Lieutenant Torres reported, we are receiving messages from human settlements all across the galaxy. Word is spreading about our new tactics. Chun read the reports. Human captains everywhere were abandoning Coalition rules of engagement. They were using whatever weapons they could find, ignoring the laws of war, treating their ships as expendable resources instead of precious assets. The Vorthic advance was slowing. Not because they were losing battles, but because the cost of each victory was becoming too high. "Ma'am," Commander Park said, "there is something else. Intelligence reports say the coalition species are concerned about what we are doing." "What do you mean?" "They expected us to fight like coalition members, careful, controlled, following the rules. Instead, we are fighting like ... like what?" Park hesitated. "Like barbarians, ma'am." "They're calling us barbarians," John almost laughed. "They betray us, leave us to die, and then complain that we are not fighting politely?" "There are reports that some coalition worlds are requesting Vorthic protection from human retaliation." Chun stared at the tactical display. She thought about Nexus Prime, about the 3 million people they had saved and the 5 million they could not, about Captain Kim and Captain Rodriguez and all the others who had died fighting impossible odds, about Captain Walsh and her daughter. On New Shanghai. "Commander Park, send a message to Earth. Tell them we need to talk about changing our strategy." "Ma'am?" "Tell them we need to stop retreating and start advancing. The coalition wants barbarians. Let us give them barbarians. The long retreat was ending. Soon it would be time for humanity to go on the attack. And when they did, the galaxy would learn that betraying humanity came with a price." 6 months had passed since the betrayal at Nexus Prime, the human fleet that limped back to Earth looked nothing like the proud coalition vessels that had once patrolled the galaxy. These ships were scarred, modified, and dangerous in ways that made coalition observers nervous. Admiral Chun stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, looking at star maps that showed the new reality. Red zones marked Vorthic-controlled space. Blue zones showed the remaining human territories. Between them was a growing yellow area that made coalition representatives ask uncomfortable questions. "Admiral, the test results are in," said Dr. Elena Vasquez, the head of the Prometheus Research Division. She was a small woman with tired eyes, but her voice carried the excitement of someone who had just solved an impossible puzzle. "Show me," Chun said. Dr. Vasquez activated the holographic display in the center of the room. A 3-dimensional image appeared showing a sleek ship, unlike anything in current human fleets. "We call it the Retribution-class Dreadnought. It uses technology from all 12 coalition species, but pushed far beyond their safety limits." Chun walked around the hologram, studying the design. "Explain the Zephyrian energy matrices that power coalition ships? We figured out how to make them run at 340% normal output. The Krolek defensive grids. We layered 6 of them on top of each other. The Thane navigation systems? We modified them to jump directly into gravity wells." Fleet Admiral Harrison, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "What about the risks?" Dr. Vasquez smiled grimly. "Under coalition safety standards, this ship should explode the moment we turn it on. But we ran over 3,000 simulations. It will work. For how long?" Chun asked. "Long enough," Chun understood. This was not a ship built to last decades like coalition vessels. This was a weapon built to win a war quickly, no matter the cost. "When will the first one be ready?" "The Retribution is already in space." "Doc, Captain Maria Vasquez will command her." Dr. Vasquez's face showed pride. "My daughter volunteered to test our most dangerous creation," Chun nodded. In the old days, no coalition officer would have been allowed to command an untested ship. Too risky, too many safety concerns. But humans had learned that sometimes risk was the only way to survive. "What else do we have?" Dr. Vasquez changed the display. The Wraith-class stealth frigates used modified Solari cloaking technology. The Coalition banned this research because it was too aggressive for defensive purposes. And now? Now we can make ships completely invisible to sensors. They can appear anywhere, strike without warning, and disappear. The display changed again. The Hammer-class assault ships use Krillian mining equipment as weapons. Turns out that tools designed to crack asteroids work very well against enemy armor. Chun studied each design. Every ship incorporated technology from coalition species, but modified in ways those species had never imagined. Where the aliens had built for peace and safety, humans had built for war and victory. Dr. Vasquez, how many species technologies are we using? All of them, Admiral. 30 years of alliance taught us everything they knew. We just never told them what we were learning. Fleet Admiral Harrison leaned forward. Show her the real surprise. Dr. Vasquez's smile became almost frightening. The Prometheus Protocol was not just about building new ships, Admiral. It was about removing the limits we had accepted for 30 years. What limits? Coalition member species are required to share military technology, but only defensive applications. Weapons research beyond certain parameters is forbidden. Artificial intelligence beyond level 3 is banned. Genetic enhancement is prohibited. Quantum manipulation is restricted. Chun began to understand. And we followed those rules because we were good coalition members. Exactly, but we are not coalition members anymore. The display showed new images. Ships that move faster than anything in known space. Weapons that ignored shields and armor. AI systems that could think and plan like humans but calculate like computers. How is this possible? Chun asked. We were always capable of this, Admiral. Humans learn differently than other species. Where they specialize, we generalize. Where they perfect one approach, we tried 10 different ones. For 30 years, we took their best ideas and made them better. Dr. Vasquez pulled up another display. The Altarians developed energy weapons that could punch through any known armor. We made them twice as powerful. The Dendrii created navigation systems that could plot courses through dangerous space. We made them plot courses through impossible space. The Vorthic will not expect this, Harrison said. Neither will the Coalition, Chun replied. She was right. 3 days later, the Retribution began its first combat mission. Captain Maria Vasquez took her ship to the Volf 359 system, where a Vorthic battle group was attacking a human mining colony. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. Coalition observers who had been monitoring the system watched in shock as a single human ship appeared out of nowhere and destroyed 12 Vorthic vessels without taking significant damage. The enemy weapons seemed to pass right through the human ship's shields. The human weapons cut through Vorthic armor like paper. When the Coalition ships tried to scan the mysterious human vessel, their sensors showed impossible readings. The ship was moving faster than physics should allow. Its energy output was beyond anything they had ever measured. Its weapons used principles that their scientists did not understand. Captain Vasquez broadcast a message to the fleeing Vorthic ships. Tell your commanders that humanity is no longer retreating. Tell them we are coming. Then the Retribution vanished, using the same impossible technology that had brought it to the battle. The recordings of the battle reached Coalition space within hours. Emergency sessions were called on every Coalition world. Scientists demanded explanations. Military leaders asked for tactical assessments. Politicians wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. Admiral Chun received a transmission from Chancellor Vex, the same Altarian who had delivered humanity's abandonment 6 months earlier. Admiral Chun, the Coalition Council requests an immediate meeting to discuss recent developments. What developments would those be, Chancellor? Chun's voice was politely neutral. Your ship at Volf 359, our sensors detected technology that should not exist. We need to understand what humanity has developed. Chun almost smiled. Chancellor, 6 months ago, you told us that the Coalition had weighed all options and decided to abandon us to extinction. Why do you care what technology we develop? Admiral, please understand. The Coalition acted to preserve peace in the galaxy. If humanity has developed weapons of this magnitude, it changes everything. Yes, Chun said. It does? She cut the transmission without another word. Reports continued to flood in from across human space. The new ships were appearing everywhere, striking Vorthic forces with devastating effect. But more importantly, they were showing the galaxy that humanity was no longer the same species that had joined the Coalition 30 years earlier. At the Kepler system, 3 Wraith-class stealth frigates attacked a Vorthic supply convoy. The enemy never saw them coming. 60 transport ships carrying weapons and supplies simply exploded without warning. When Vorthic warships arrived to investigate, they found only empty space dot in the Tau Ceti system. A single Hammer-class assault ship destroyed an entire Vorthic orbital station using modified mining equipment. The weapons tore through the station's structure like it was made of paper. Coalition observers noted that the human ship used tactics that were unnecessarily brutal by civilized standards. At Ross 128, a human fleet appeared using the new jump technology. They materialized inside the gravity well of the planet, something that should have torn their ships apart. Instead, they destroyed the Vorthic occupation force and disappeared. Before reinforcements could arrive, the Coalition Council held another emergency meeting. "These humans are using technology we do not understand," reported General Korth of the Zephyrian Republic. "Their ships violate several known laws of physics." "Impossible," declared Chief Scientist Myra of the Krolek Federation. "We have been monitoring human technology development for 30 years. They never showed this capability." Admiral Chen's voice came from the communication system. She had not been invited to the meeting, but human ships were now monitoring all Coalition communications. "You monitored what we allowed you to monitor?" she said calmly. "For 30 years we followed your rules, your limitations, your definitions of what was acceptable. We never showed you what we were really capable of because we were trying to be good allies." The council chamber was silent. "But you taught us something important," Chun continued. "You taught us that in this galaxy strength is the only thing that matters. You abandoned us when we were weak. You feared us when we became strong." Chancellor Vex found his voice. "Admiral, the Coalition made a difficult decision based on the information available at the time. The information was that humanity could be betrayed without consequences. You were wrong. What do you want from us?" asked Councillor Thane of the Solari Union. Chun's answer was simple and terrifying. "Nothing. We do not need you anymore." The transmission ended, leaving the Coalition Council in stunned silence. Captain Maria Vasquez continued her campaign against Vorthic forces, now commanding a small fleet of the new Retribution-class ships. Each battle taught humanity more about their own capabilities and their enemies' weaknesses. At the Battle of Procyon, she demonstrated the true power of human innovation. The Vorthic had assembled their largest remaining fleet, over 400 ships, to make one final push toward Earth. Coalition observers expected this to be humanity's end. Instead, it became the Vorthic Empire's worst nightmare. Vasquez brought 12 human ships against 400 Vorthic vessels. On paper, it was hopeless. In reality, it was over before it began. The human ships used their impossible speed to appear throughout the enemy formation simultaneously. They used weapons that seemed to ignore shields and armor. They coordinated their attacks with precision that suggested artificial intelligence far beyond Coalition standards. But most shocking of all was their ruthlessness. When Vorthic ships tried to surrender, the humans ignored them. When enemy vessels attempted to retreat, the humans hunted them down. There was no mercy, no quarter given, no respect for the traditional rules of space warfare. Within 3 hours, the entire Vorthic fleet was destroyed. Not defeated, not routed. Completely annihilated. Captain Vasquez broadcast her report to all nearby systems, knowing that Coalition observers would intercept it. "This is Captain Maria Vasquez of the Terran Federation Navy. The Vorthic Empire's main battle fleet has been eliminated. Any remaining Vorthic forces have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally or face the same fate." She paused, added something that made Coalition leaders feel cold fear. "This message also applies to any other species that supported the Vorthic invasion of human space. You know who you are? You have 48 hours." The message was clear. Humanity was no longer just fighting the Vorthic. They were coming for everyone who had betrayed them. On Earth, Admiral Chun received reports of Coalition fleets mobilizing, not to help fight the Vorthic, but to defend Coalition space from humanity. "They are afraid of us now," Dr. Vasquez reported. Intelligence suggests several coalition species are requesting mutual defense agreements. Against us? Against us. Chun looked at the strategic display. 6 months ago, humanity had been abandoned and left to die. Now, 12 alien species were forming military alliances to protect themselves from human retaliation. Dr. Vasquez, how many new ships can we produce? With our current manufacturing capacity? About 100 per month. Not enough. Double it. Admiral, that would require converting all civilian manufacturing. Do it, and Dr. Vasquez? Yes, ma'am? Start working on bigger ships. I think we are going to need them. As the reports of human victories spread across the galaxy, a new reality began to emerge. The species that had abandoned humanity to save themselves now faced a choice: submit to human authority or face the consequences of their betrayal. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had very long memories and very creative ways of seeking justice. Admiral Chun stood in the command center on Earth, watching the largest military operation in human history unfold. On the screens around her, hundreds of ships prepared for what the military had codenamed Operation Reckoning. It had been 1 year since the betrayal at Nexus Prime, and humanity was no longer running. Admiral, all fleets report ready, announced Captain Torres, who had been promoted after surviving the retreat from Coalition space. 240 ships in 12 strike groups. Chun nodded. The numbers were impressive, but more impressive was what those ships could do. Every vessel had been built with one purpose: to make the galaxy pay for abandoning humanity to die. Communications, patch me through to all fleet commanders. Channel open, ma'am. Chun looked at the faces of her captains on the display screens. These were not the same officers who had served the Coalition faithfully for 30 years. These were people who had watched friends die while alien allies ran away. People who had seen human colonies burned from orbit while Coalition observers took notes. Commanders, you know your targets. 12 Coalition worlds that voted to abandon us. 12 species that thought humans could be thrown away when convenient. Chun's voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel underneath. Today we show them the cost of betrayal. Captain Maria Vasquez spoke from the bridge of her flagship Retribution. Admiral, what are the rules of engagement? There are no rules anymore, Captain. The Coalition broke them first. Chun switched to a wider communication channel that would reach every human ship in the operation, to all crews participating in Operation Reckoning. 1 year ago, we trusted our allies. We fought beside them, bled for them, called them friends. When we needed them most, they abandoned us to face extinction alone. She paused, thinking of all the colonies that had been lost, all the lives that could have been saved. They thought we would die quietly. They thought wrong. Today we begin collecting the debt they owe us. Every world that voted against humanity, every species that chose survival over honor, they will all learn that betraying humanity comes with a price. The transmission ended. Across human space, 12 attack fleets jumped into hyperspace, heading for targets that had not seen war in over a century. The first target was Alire Prime, homeworld of Chancellor Vex and the Altarian Republic. The planet had a population of 4 billion and was protected by the strongest defenses in Coalition space. It had never been successfully attacked in over 2,000 years of Altarian history. Captain Jin Wu commanded the attack fleet heading for Alire Prime. His ships appeared at the edge of the system using the new jump technology that allowed them to bypass the outer defensive stations entirely. All ships begin the approach, Wu ordered. Remember, we are not here to conquer, we are here to make a point. The Altarian defense fleet was impressive. 60 capital ships and over 200 smaller vessels. Under normal circumstances, it would have taken a fleet of 500 ships to challenge such defenses. Wu had brought 30. The Battle of Alire Prime lasted 6 hours and became a textbook example of how superior technology could overcome superior numbers. Human ships moved through space like ghosts, appearing and disappearing faster than Altarian gunners could track them. Human weapons ignored Altarian shields and armor, cutting through their ships like knives through paper. But the most shocking part was not how easily the humans won. It was what they did after winning. When the last Altarian warship was destroyed, Wu's fleet took up positions around the planet. They did not attack the civilian population. They did not bombard the cities. Instead, they sent a simple message. To Chancellor Vex. Chancellor, this is Captain Wu of the Terran Federation Navy. Your fleet is gone. Your defenses are gone. Your planet is defenseless. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Chancellor Vex, broadcasting from his bunker, deep beneath the capital city, tried to maintain his dignity. Captain Wu, the Altarian Republic does not surrender to terrorists. We are not terrorists, Chancellor. We are the people you betrayed. You have 59 minutes. What happened next shocked the galaxy. Human ships began targeting specific buildings on the planet's surface, not randomly, not civilians. They destroyed the Coalition Council building where the vote to abandon humanity had taken place. They destroyed the military command center that had coordinated the withdrawal from Nexus Prime. They destroyed Chancellor Vex's personal residence. Each target was hit with surgical precision. No civilian casualties. No collateral damage. Just the complete elimination of everything connected to the betrayal of humanity. After 30 minutes of this demonstration, Chancellor Vex surrendered. Similar scenes played out across Coalition space. At Krolek Prime, Captain Sarah Kim used her stealth frigates to appear directly above the capital city. The Krolek Defense Force never had a chance to respond before their ships were destroyed. The planetary government surrendered within 2 hours. At Thane Secundus, Captain Rodriguez demonstrated the power of the new Hammer-class assault ships by destroying an entire orbital shipyard complex in minutes. The twisted wreckage rained down on the planet's oceans, creating a light show visible from the surface. The message was clear. Human technology could reach anywhere, but not all Coalition species surrendered quickly. The Zephyrian Republic, proud of their military tradition, chose to fight. General Korth assembled the largest fleet in Zephyrian history. 300 ships, including their newest dreadnoughts. He would show these upstart humans what real military power looked like. Captain Maria Vasquez brought 50 human ships to meet him at the edge of Zephyrian space. General Korth, she transmitted as the fleets faced each other, I remember you. You were at the War Council when humanity requested support at Nexus Prime. You voted to abandon us. Captain Vasquez, the Zephyrian Republic does not negotiate with pirates. Pirates? Vasquez actually laughed. General, we are not pirates. We are your former allies, the ones you left to die. The Battle of Zephyr was the largest space engagement since the Coalition Wars 3 centuries earlier. It was also the most one-sided. Zephyr-EN ships were built for traditional space warfare. Long-range exchanges of fire between formations moving at predictable speeds. The tactics had worked for them for thousands of years. Human ships fought like nothing the Zephyrians had ever seen. They used their impossible speed to appear inside Zephyrian formations. They ignored traditional battle lines and attacked from all directions at once. They coordinated their movements with inhuman precision. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to know exactly where to hit Zephyrian ships to cause maximum damage. Every human shot found weak spots in armor. Every attack targeted critical systems. It was as if they had been studying Zephyrian ship designs for decades. Which, of course, they had. All human vessels, focus fire on the command ships, Vasquez ordered. Take out their leadership first? General Korth watched in horror as his flagship shields collapsed under human fire. How's this possible? He demanded of his tactical officer. Sir, they are using our own weapon frequencies against us. Their attacks are perfectly calibrated to penetrate our defenses. That is impossible. Our shield technology is classified. Sir, humanity has been our ally for 30 years. They have had access to all our technical specifications. Korth finally understood. For 3 decades, the Coalition had shared everything with humanity. Ship designs, weapon capabilities, defensive systems. They had trusted their human allies completely. Now that trust was being used to destroy them. The Zephyrian fleet was annihilated in 4 hours. General Korth's flagship was the last to fall. As human ships surrounded him, Vasquez sent one final transmission. General, you taught us something important today. You taught us that superior numbers mean nothing against superior technology and tactics. Remember that lesson when you explained to your people why their fleet is gone. Korth's ship exploded moments later. Across the galaxy, Coalition species watched the reports with growing terror. Every engagement followed the same pattern. Human fleets appearing without warning, destroying everything that opposed them, and then making simple demands, unconditional surrender. The Solari Union tried to negotiate. Ambassador Thane contacted Admiral Chun directly, offering to discuss terms for a peaceful resolution. Admiral Chun, surely we can find a diplomatic solution to this crisis. Ambassador Thane, 1 year ago I sent similar messages to your government. I begged for support at Nexus Prime. Your response was to vote for our abandonment. Tell me, why should I listen to you now? Admiral, the Solari Union has always believed in peaceful resolution of conflicts. Unless those conflicts involve defending your allies, apparently. Chun's response was broadcast to every Solari world simultaneously. The Solari Union has 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why peaceful species should not betray violent ones. The Solari government chose to surrender rather than test human resolve. Similar ultimatums went out to every coalition species. Most surrendered without fighting. A few tried to resist and, were crushed. None were able to mount an effective defense against human technology and tactics. The Dendry Collective, known for their advanced computer systems, tried to hack human ship networks. They discovered that human AI was far more sophisticated than anything they had imagined. Their attack programs were not only defeated, but turned back against them. Within hours, every computer system in Dendry space was under human control. The Antares Federation attempted to use their diplomatic immunity to appeal to neutral species for protection. They discovered that there were no neutral species left. Everyone in the galaxy was either surrendering to humanity or preparing to do so. The Rigel Consortium tried to buy their way out of the crisis, offering to pay enormous tribute to Earth. Admiral Chun's response was simple. You cannot buy forgiveness for betrayal, but you can surrender and hope for mercy. As coalition resistance crumbled, something else was happening that terrified the remaining free worlds. The Vorthic Empire, humanity's original enemy, was collapsing completely. Human forces had turned their attention to the Vorthak after securing coalition space. The alien empire that had threatened the galaxy for centuries was being systematically destroyed by fleets that appeared anywhere they wanted and struck without warning. Vorthak worlds that had never seen enemy ships suddenly found human fleets in their skies. Ancient Vorthak fortresses that had stood for millennia were reduced to rubble in hours. The Emperor himself was forced to flee his capital when human ships appeared directly above his palace. Captain Vasquez led the final assault on the Vorthak homeworld. She brought 200 human ships against the last organized Vorthak defense force. The battle was over in 90 minutes. As Vorthak cities burned and their fleets drifted as wreckage, Vasquez broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. This is Captain Maria Vasquez of the Terran Federation Navy. The Vorthak Empire is no more. Their military is destroyed. Their government is dissolved. Their territory is now under human administration. She paused, looking at the burning world. Below, to all remaining free worlds in the galaxy, you have seen what happens to those who threaten humanity. The coalition species learned the cost of betrayal. The Vorthak learned the price of aggression. Anyone else who wishes to test human resolve is welcome to try. On Earth, Admiral Chun received surrender offers from across the galaxy. Worlds that had never heard of humanity a year ago were now begging to become human protectorates. Species that had considered humans primitive barbarians were offering tribute and allegiance. Admiral, Captain Torres reported, we have received formal surrender documents from all 12 coalition species. The Vorthak Empire no longer exists. Approximately 60% of known space is now under direct or indirect human control. Chun nodded. Operation Reckoning had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. But as she looked at the star maps showing human dominance across the galaxy, she felt no joy. Captain, what is the status of our former coalition allies? Under detention, ma'am. All former Coalition Council members are being held pending trial for crimes against humanity. And their populations? Confused, mostly. Many of them still do not understand why this happened. They thought the Coalition was making a reasonable decision to preserve peace. Hyun understood. Most Coalition citizens had never known that their governments had betrayed humanity. They had trusted their leaders to make good decisions. Captain, prepare a galaxy-wide broadcast. It is time to explain to everyone what really happened and what happens next. As human fleets patrolled space that had been free for millennia, the galaxy waited to learn what kind of rulers humanity would be. The age of the Coalition was over. The Vorthic Empire was destroyed. The age of humanity had begun. 2 years had passed since the betrayal at Nexus Prime. Admiral Chun, now promoted to Grand Admiral and Supreme Commander of Terran Federation forces, stood in what had once been the Coalition Council chambers on Nexus Prime. The planet had been rebuilt, but it was no longer a symbol of alien cooperation. It was the capital of human space. The morning briefing was about to begin. Representatives from 67 species would attend, but they were no longer equals meeting as allies. They were subjects reporting to their human administrators. Grand Admiral, Captain Torres announced, all sector governors are present for the briefing. Chun nodded and walked to the central podium. The chamber had been redesigned since the Coalition days. Where once there had been a circular arrangement suggesting equality, now there were concentric rings with humans at the center, and everyone else arranged by their level of cooperation with the new order. The closest ring held the former Coalition. Species who had surrendered quickly and accepted human rule without resistance. The middle ring held species that had fought but eventually submitted. The outer ring held representatives from worlds still under direct military occupation. Governors, begin your reports, Chun commanded. Governor Martinez spoke first. He now administered the former Altarian Republic territories. Grand Admiral, reconstruction of the Altair system is proceeding on schedule. The new industrial complexes will be operational within 6 months. Production quotas for the human fleet expansion program will be met. Chun made notes on her tablet. The Altarians had been efficient administrators under the Coalition. Now, their expertise served human expansion. Their factories built human ships. Their scientists worked on human research projects. Their children learned human languages in school. Any resistance activities to report? Minor protests in the university districts, ma'am. Nothing our security forces cannot handle. The Altarian population is adapting to the new reality. Good. Next report. Governor Kim, who oversaw the former Kralek territories, stood up. Grand Admiral, the Kralek mining operations are exceeding expectations. We have increased rare metal production by 30% since implementing human efficiency standards. Worker safety, within acceptable parameters, ma'am. The Kralek are naturally suited for underground work. They adapt well to extended shifts, Chun nodded. The Kralek had been mining specialists for the Coalition. Now they mine materials for human technology. Their deep space extraction operations provided the resources needed to build ever larger human fleets. Security status? Stable, ma'am. The Kralek leadership understands their position. They cooperate fully with human administrators. Governor after governor gave similar reports. Production up, resistance down, cooperation increasing. The former Coalition species were learning their place in the new galaxy, but when Governor Vasquez stood to speak, her report was different. She administered the former Vorthic territories, the heart of what had once been humanity's greatest enemy. Grand Admiral, the situation in the former Vorthac core worlds remains ... complex. Explain. The Vorthic Empire ruled by fear and oppression. For centuries. Their subject species are having difficulty adjusting to human administration. Many of them expected us to be equally brutal. Chun leaned forward. And are we? No, ma'am. Our policies of fair treatment and equal rights for all species have surprised many former Vorthic subjects. Some are still waiting for the other shoe to drop. This was the strange reality of human rule. The galaxy had expected humanity to become tyrannical conquerors after their victory. Instead, human administrators were proving to be more fair and efficient than either the Coalition or the Vorthic had ever been. Productivity in the former Vorthic territories? Increasing rapidly, ma'am. When people are not afraid of being executed for minor mistakes, they work much better. Several species have requested permanent human protection even after their probationary period's end. Chun almost smiled. The Vorthic had ruled through fear and violence. Humans ruled through competence and justice. The difference was showing in every measurable way. Any requests for independence? None, ma'am. The species that lived under Vorthic rule have no desire to return to the old system. They prefer human administration. After all the reports were finished, Chen addressed the assembled governors. These were mostly humans now, but some were aliens who had proven their loyalty to the new order. Governors, the Terran Federation has been in existence for 2 years. In that time, we have brought peace to a galaxy that knew only war. We have brought prosperity to worlds that knew only exploitation. We have brought justice to species that knew only oppression. She paused, looking around the chamber. But some of you may wonder about our ultimate goals. What does humanity want from this galaxy? Governor Martinez raised his hand. Grand Admiral, if I may ask, what happens when the current generation of human leaders is gone? Will our children and grandchildren maintain the same policies? It was a good question. Chun had been thinking about it herself. Governor Martinez, humanity did not seek to rule this galaxy. Rule was forced upon us by the actions of others. The Coalition betrayed us. The Vorthic tried to destroy us. We responded as any species would when faced with extinction. She activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy with human-controlled space highlighted in blue. But now we have responsibilities. 67 species look to humanity for protection, for justice, for leadership. We cannot simply abandon that responsibility. The display changed to show economic data. Production levels, trade volumes, living standards. Under human administration, galactic GDP has increased by 40%. Interspecies conflicts have decreased by 90%. Life expectancy across all species has improved. Crime rates have fallen to historic lows. Governor Kim spoke up. Grand Admiral, those are impressive statistics. But what about freedom? What about self-determination? Chun considered the question carefully. Governor Kim, can you define freedom? The right to make one's own choices, to govern oneself. I see. And tell me, when the Coalition Council voted to abandon humanity to extinction, were they exercising their freedom to make choices? Kim was quiet. When the Vorthic enslaved entire species and ground their cultures into dust, were they exercising their right to self-determination? Chun changed the display again. This time it showed images from the old Coalition archives. Species that had gone extinct under Vorthic rule. Worlds that had been stripped bare by Coalition neglect. Freedom without wisdom is destruction. Self-determination without justice is tyranny. For 3,000 years, this galaxy was free. Free to make war. Free to oppress the weak. Free to betray allies when convenient. She turned to face the assembled governors directly. Humanity offers something different. We offer order. We offer justice. We offer protection for those who cannot protect themselves. In exchange, we ask for cooperation and loyalty. Governor Vasquez raised her hand. Grand Admiral, what about species that refuse cooperation? What about those who still resist human rule? They are given choices, Governor. They can accept human administration and enjoy the benefits of our protection. They can request autonomous status and govern themselves under human oversight. Or they can choose to leave human space entirely, and if they choose violence? Chun's expression hardened. Then they discover why the Coalition and the Vorthic are no longer threats to anyone. After the briefing ended, Chin walked alone through the corridors of the rebuilt government complex. The walls displayed memorials to the human colonies lost. During the retreat, the names of ships and crews who had died fighting impossible odds. She stopped at one particular memorial. It listed the crew of the transport ship Prosperity, the civilian vessel whose captain had sacrificed herself and her ship to save refugee transports at the Battle of Kepler. Captain Walsh's daughter sends her regards, a voice said behind her. Chun turned to see Dr. Elena Vasquez, the scientist who had developed humanity's new technologies. The older woman looked tired but satisfied. How is she? Lieutenant Walsh is commanding a patrol ship in the former Vorthic territories. She says her mother would be proud of what humanity has accomplished. Chun nodded. Dr. Vasquez, do you ever wonder if we have become the very thing we fought against? You mean tyrants? Yes. Dr. Vasquez was quiet for a moment. Grand Admiral, I have seen the reports from across human space. Crime rates at historic lows. Economic prosperity for all species. Educational opportunities for every child regardless of their species or planet of origin. Medical care available to everyone. She gestured toward the memorial wall. The Coalition gave us democracy and left us to die. The Vorthic gave us slavery and called it order. We have given the galaxy justice and called it necessary. And you think that is enough? I think it is more than anyone else was willing to give. Chun looked at the names on the memorial wall again. Billions of humans who had died because their allies chose convenience over loyalty. Millions more who had died fighting to protect people who could not protect themselves. Dr. Vasquez, are we the villains in this story? Grand Admiral, I think we are the people who were left standing when everyone else fell down. History will decide if that makes us heroes or villains. That evening, Chun received a message from Earth. President Martinez, the former governor of Nexus Prime, who had chosen to fight rather than abandon his people, was now the elected leader of the Terran Federation. Grand Admiral, we have received a formal request from the Andromedan Trade Union. They want to establish diplomatic relations with the Terran Federation. Chun was surprised. The Andromedan Trade Union was a collection of species from outside the galaxy. They had watched the war between humanity and the Coalition from a safe distance. What do they want? Security guarantees, mostly. They have heard about our policies toward subject species. They want to ensure we have no territorial ambitions beyond our current borders. And do we? President Martinez was quiet for a moment. Grand Admiral, that is a question for the Federation Council to decide. But personally, I think we have enough responsibilities already, Chun agreed. Governing 67 species across thousands of worlds was challenge enough. Expanding further would only create more problems. Mr. President, what is the status of the former Coalition Council members? They are still in protective custody pending trial. The question is what to do with them. Chun had been avoiding this decision for months. The former Coalition leaders who had voted to abandon humanity were technically guilty of genocide. Under human law, they deserved execution. But executing them would make humanity look vindictive. Mr. President, I recommend exile. Exile? Send them to a remote system outside human space. Give them enough supplies to establish a small colony. Let them live with the consequences of their choices. That seems merciful. It is more mercy than they showed us. 2 years after humanity's rise to galactic dominance, the new order was firmly established. Species that had once seen humans as junior partners in the Coalition now looked to them for leadership and protection. Worlds that had known only war now experienced peace. People who had lived in fear now lived in security, but in her private moments, Grand Admiral Chun sometimes wondered about the cost. Humanity had gained the galaxy, but they had lost their innocence. They had become the strongest species in known space. But they had also become responsible for everyone else. The last entry in Chen's personal log that night was simple. We did not ask to rule the galaxy, we asked only to be left alone. But when the choice was between justice and extinction, we chose justice. The galaxy belongs to humanity now, not because we wanted it, but because no one else was willing to do what was necessary to protect the innocent. She paused, then added, "History will judge whether we were heroes or villains. But tonight, children of 67 species sleep safely because human ships patrol their skies. That will have to be enough." Outside her window, the lights of New Geneva sparkled in the darkness. The city had been rebuilt bigger and better than before. It was no longer just a human colony. It was the capital of an empire built not on conquest, but on the simple principle that some betrayals demand consequences. The galaxy had wanted monsters. Humanity had given them justice instead. Whether future generations would see the difference remained to be seen.